Hello and welcome to Good Morning Valencia, Episode 8, Journey of Excellence. It's your host, Timothy, and we're excited to be with you all today. Before you check out this episode, make sure you listen to Episode 6, where we interviewed our student leaders, about Episode 7, where we spoke about our show, Free-ish. Now back to our topic. As we all know, it's Black History Month, and we feel it's imperative to recognize and honor our African-American role models who have exemplified Black excellence within their career fields across the country. And here at Valencia College, we have a diverse family from all across the globe, and we don't shy away from celebrating those cultures throughout the year.
Hey Valencia family, once again, it's your host Amanda. And Tim, thank you so much for kicking off this episode. Man, you are always so good with words. I really hope that by the end of this season, I pick up some of those terms and expressions that you use. I'm just, always amazed on how good you are with expressing your thoughts. And so I'm excited to say that we have a very, very special guest today. And she has been serving as the interim campus president for West and Downtown campuses. Tim, do you want to take a guess of who we're talking about, or who we're interviewing?
I'm just going to throw a wild guess out there. I'm going to say Dr. Terry Graham. Am I right, Amanda?
Yeah, you're right.
That's really not fair. I knew the answer before we did it. But I'd like to welcome Dr. Graham to our podcast. Welcome to Good Morning Valencia. How has your week been going, and what are you looking forward to this semester?
Good afternoon. I am so honored to be able to participate in your Good Morning Valencia podcast. So this is really an exciting moment for me. The more I have the opportunity to interact with our students, the better. Part of what I'm looking forward to this semester, just to be completely honest, is sort of the leveling out of the pandemic. We have all been going through so much since the start of the pandemic last spring. So I'm looking forward to vaccination rollouts being available to the general public. I'm looking forward to exploring the possibilities of what Valencia is going to look like as we move forward in the future for education, because I do think that the pandemic has given us a reason to sort of rethink how we do higher education. So I'm just looking forward to just the opportunities that the pandemic has opened up to let us know we can do a whole lot more than we think we can do. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation, Dr. Graham. And we really appreciate you taking time off your busy schedule and being with us today. So we had the opportunity of learning a little bit about your journey because we have met before this podcast, to have an idea of what we were going to talk about and how it was going to look like. So I want to give you the opportunity of sharing with our students a little bit about your story. So tell us, who is Dr. Graham?
7 years ago. Just kidding. I am originally, I'm from Florida. I'm one of the few folks who are a native Floridian. So I'm originally from right up the street in Jacksonville, Florida.
Duval,
that's right. Jacksonville Jaguars. We're gonna get ourselves together, the Jaguars.
Someday.
So I'm from Jacksonville, the oldest of 5 children, So part of my journey sort of starts with an emphasis on education. I'm a semi-first generation student in that neither one of my parents went to college, but they always encouraged us to go if we wanted to go. A very strong advocate for college was my grandmother. Now, my grandmother did go to college and ended up being a teacher and a social worker. So she was really strong on making sure we had the information that we need and encouraged us to go. So oldest of 5 kids, graduated from high school. And part of what really put me on a pathway to college was my interest in extracurricular. So that's why I'm so proud to see you all engaged and involved in activities sort of outside the classroom that kind of helped to build your leadership skills. I was a band person. In fact, I have on my Marching 100 alumni shirt. So all through middle school and high school, I was in the band. So a big motivator to go to college for me was to be in Florida A&M University's band. So that's good. As far as like looking at the field that I wanted to go into, I've always wanted to be in education. And a big driver of that was some of the old documentaries that my grandmother used to make us look at. And part of what was included in those documentaries, they used to come on Channel 7, PBS, Eyes on the Prize, and learning about Ruby Bridges and the Little Rock Nine, and looking at all of those different discrimination and inequalities in education. So even from a young age, I was like, I want to help people get an education. So I've always been interested in education. So graduated from high school, went on to Florida A&M University, majored in elementary education, went straight through, got my bachelor's, master's from FAMU, and again, majoring in elementary education because again, I really thought education was sort of the key to opening up new worlds for folks. After I graduated from FAM, believe it or not, I got my first job up in Atlanta. And in true Floridian style, Atlanta was too cold for me. So I literally only spent 1 year up there teaching fourth grade before I came running back to Florida. So came back to Florida, and I actually came here to the Central Florida area. I taught middle school for about 5 years, taught at Robbinswood Middle School over in Pine Hills. And it's so funny that I talk about this journey. I was on a Zoom meeting with UCF a couple of weeks ago when a young lady sent me a private chat asking me if I had ever taught school. And I told her yes. And so turns out I was her sixth grade math teacher 27 years ago. So talk about coming full circle. So that, that really had me excited.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't that amazing? I just, she's doing so well. So, and again, that's one of the benefits of sort of choosing education as a field is you really get to see your former students to grow and come into themselves, and knowing that you had a positive impact on them is critical and means a lot. So taught at Robbinswood. Parenting was changing at that time. So, I really began to reflect and think, okay, is this really what I want to do? And I love the students. I'll be honest. I always loved the students. I always got along well with the students. I was always a strict disciplinarian, but it was always love. So they, I didn't have any problems, but the parents were just so different at the time. So I decided I wanted to try something different. So I actually stopped teaching after about 5 years and went back to school, got a second master's degree actually from Rollins. So I got an MBA from Rollins. I wanted sort of a paradigm shift because I had always been in education. So I really wanted to see what the business world was like. So I got my MBA from Rollins. At the time I was engaged, so I got married, moved back to Jacksonville and worked in the business field in marketing and management for a while. Education, I started to miss education, and in fact, I used to go to, with the company I was working for, I would go to the local community college there to host like workshops and seminars, because back then they had a boardroom that was just filled with technology, so they would let external folks use it at no charge. So I would go there and host workshops, seminars, and all kinds of stuff like that. When I got to talking to somebody who used to help me set up there about possible opportunities in education. So long story short, transitioned back to education at the community college level, working with adult education and workforce programs, and just really fell in love and found my calling. I said, I was supposed to be in education, and this is sort of the venue and arena that I should use for education. So did well, was able to sort of work my way up the ladder to a director's position at Florida State College in Jacksonville. But just like with what happens with some of our students, life happens. Life happened to me. I um, ended up going through a divorce, and so that's difficult. So I know when students have personal circumstances that can really impact what they're trying to do, it can be really hard. So if you don't have a good, strong support system in the form of a family member, or sometimes it's not necessarily a family, a good friend, someone that you really trust that could guide you in the right way and keep you encouraged. So starting to
Mm.
go through a divorce. And so when you go through things like that, your financial situation changes. I had two children, so just trying to figure out and map my landscape of where I was going, and what I was going to do. I knew I liked community college level. I wanted to stay at the community college. So, but I knew that in order to advance in the community college ranks, that I had to go back to school again, which
Wow.
did not excite me. So I understand what it's like to not be excited about school. I felt I already had two masters. So the thought of going back to school again with two kids just was overwhelming. But again, focusing on what I wanted for the future and being willing to make, that temporary sacrifice. So I got back in school. And again, I took that long route. It took me 7 years because I only went part time because I was already kind of drowning in student loans, made that mistake, taking out a bunch of loans, and I just did not want to take out another loan. So I wanted to pay for it out of pocket. So I took that long route, of going to school to finish the doctorate. Ended up getting my doctorate from University of Florida. It was actually a little, I call it a bait and switch, because the University of Florida started a special program where they would allow administrators to work on their doctorate at UF, but they would come to Jacksonville for the weekends. And what would happen is we would be in class all day Saturday and all day Sunday. But they only did that one term. It was new. And so they did that one term. And so you had, after that one term, you had to make the decision whether or not you wanted to stay with UF, because that meant you would have to drive to Gainesville. And so I work all day, drive to Gainesville twice a week to take classes. And again, 7 years. So I know what it's like to be an at-risk student and ask yourself, why in the world am I doing this? Why am I putting I have a job. I should just be happy with this little job I got and be done with it. But again, part of what you have to do is just to ensure you have people who encourage you and people who challenge you to reach your full potential. Because we've all had friends or people in our lives who will tell us what we want to hear.
Hmm.
And what we want to hear is not necessarily what's best for our own personal growth. And so, that's one of the recommendations I have, is to always have someone around you who has your best interest at heart, but at the same time challenges you to reach your full potential, and helps you to meet that expectation. And to me, that's what a true friend is. And it may be a relative, that does that for you. So that was really important. And so basically, after finished my doctorate, was looking for opportunities naturally to advance. An opportunity came up actually in Sanford at Seminole State College. So um, took advantage of that opportunity to be a dean. So I moved to Sanford. My two children, again, scary. My whole support system was in Jacksonville. I told y'all I'm the oldest of five. So I have brothers, sisters, lots of aunts, uncles, mom and dad there. And so it sometimes we can be afraid to move forward because we're so in our comfort zone, but I knew, okay, I wanted a brighter future for my children. I wanted to also be able to sort of set the tone, because a lot of times our own behavior sets the tone for the people that we're influencing. So I'm influencing my children. I'm influencing my brothers and sisters who are younger than me, my cousins. So I wanted them to be able to see that you can still be scared, but move forward with what you think is best, you know. So moved, got the job at Seminole State, was a dean there for a while, and definitely was some growth opportunities there at Seminole State. It was a very different experience from my experience in Jacksonville working at FSCJ for 12 years. And then lo and behold, an opportunity came up at Valencia. And I had been watching Valencia a long time. I had did even a couple of reports while I was working on my doctorate about Valencia because during that time they were just really Dr. Schubert had just started. This is like 20 years ago now. And so Dr. Schubert had just started. They were talking about learning centered and what it meant to be learning centered and student centered. And so I used to do a lot of research at Valencia. So when an opportunity came up at Valencia, I definitely jumped at it. So started out as the executive dean over at the Winter Park campus. Shout out to Winter Park. And then an opportunity came up where our illustrious Dr. Felicia Williams had took advantage of another opportunity to become president up in Baltimore. And so Valencia was sort of looking for an interim person to really, you know, continue the great work that she was doing with her region. And so I was asked to step in as the interim. And so here I am.
Wow. You know, such an amazing story. And the feeling that I got from just listening to you, I was, I wish people could see, I was just like nodding my head, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's funny how you mentioned that you would always go back to school. So you got your degree and then you had that little bit of experience teaching and then you tried a different path, you went into the industry, something
Mm-hmm.
different.
Yeah.
And then, but you got back to your education and you kept coming back. And the feeling that I got from just from listening to you is that how education, you mentioned, the challenges. I think that education has that special thing where at the same time it challenges you, it it opens your perception and it just gives you a brand new set of different points of view. It's so mind opening.
Yeah.
The more education you get, the more you are involved, especially when you become a teacher and you're teaching. Sometimes you teach the same lecture over and over again, but you always learn something. Maybe I have to, improve my choice of words. Maybe I'm not reaching my students. Maybe it's a different, you know, batch of students and I have to, refresh my techniques. So you're always learning from education. There's
Yeah.
always that exchange
Yeah.
it's a two-way road, right?
Yeah, one of the things that my grandmother used to say all the time, you know, is education is the one thing they can't take from you. So even when you get to a point where you're struggling with a class, just, you know, a lot of times don't focus on, you know, that one class. Just think about your larger goal and how education just has the opportunity to expose you to new ways of thinking and new ways of being and new ways of interacting with the world so that you can decide, you know, how do I want to be? You know, we're human beings. So how do I want to be in this world? You know, what are the talents and what are the gifts? And part of what I try to tell students that I'm mentoring is to identify their passion. You know, and that's one of the things that I like about our new student experience course is it centers around helping students to identify their strengths and identify their passion because there is nothing worse than, and I have some friends who, um, nothing worse than getting up, going to a job that you hate, you know, that you sacrifice years to go to school for. Now you're paying all these student loans and you're making some money, but you're miserable. So I really think education can help expose you to whatever opportunities out there so you can identify how you want to interact and what your contribution to be. And if you've already identified what your gifts are, it helps you to sort of shape and hone. That's where our faculty come in and help you shape and hone those gifts so that you can truly, truly make the contribution that you really wanted to make to our society.
Yeah. And something that people don't really think about is, or maybe they do, but when I was younger, I didn't really see it that way. But your first network, your first connections start in school, especially when you're in college.
Yeah,
You have that professor or that classmate that maybe can, I don't know, you know, maybe that person knows somebody who can give you a job in the field that you're looking for. So
yeah,
you always have so many opportunities when you go to school and you face the
yeah,
challenges. Like you said, it's not easy. Life happens, there are ups and downs, but you have to sometimes you just got to look at the bigger picture
yeah,
and see that at the end it's all going to pay off and it's going to be worth it.
yeah. Because time is going to go by anyway. So how you choosing to whether you choose to do nothing and stand still, or whether or not you move like a little snail, slowly working on your goals, be it education or trying to move up in your career or whatever. Time is going to go by anyway. So why not make productive use of that time pursuing something that you are passionate about? That I cannot emphasize that enough, to really think about what you're passionate about. And a lot of times helping one of the things that help you identify what you're passionate about is what's the thing that makes you most upset, when you see it that's happening on the news or in society, or talking to people. What's that one thing that you know kind of gets your blood to boiling a little bit, or the thing that you can't stop thinking about, or the thing that you can do for hours and hours, and you look up and, oh my goodness, I haven't eaten today, or something like that. So I think education can help you identify that.
Yeah. Oh, Tim, feel free to
Yeah,
chime in.
I'm ready to jump in too. This is awesome. Something that I love about what both of you all were speaking about, uh, it was about connections. That really resonated with me because connection. I still remember kids from my kindergarten class. I can remember names from almost 20 years ago. I'm getting old now, but I might call it young, but I say I'm getting old.
Don't
I
say
can
that. You're not allowed.
I can remember kids from all the way back then, but I also remember my teachers.
Yeah,
And I really love the passion you have for education. And what I'm seeing here is that you're pouring out a lot. You're pouring out into your kids. You're pouring out into your education when you were trying to get multiple degrees after already having two, getting your third degree. So you're pouring out in that area, and you're teaching. You're doing all of these different things, and you're working on top of this. You're driving, you're pouring gas into your car so you can get to Gainesville every week. And I would just ask you, because it's really interesting, like, who was encouraging you during this time? Because I know this had to have been a very strenuous time, just within your mind, within everything that was going on in your life. So who was encouraging you? Who was like that mentor, that guiding light for you? What was there helping you during that time?
I have to really go back to my family structure. At the time it was really my grandmother who's passed, but my mom and dad were always there, very supportive. Naturally, sometimes if I'm driving to Gainesville, I can't take my kids with me to class. So they would have to support me by watching the kids. But um, my grandmother was a big support. My mother and father was a big support. But you also need people who can directly relate to what you are going through. So it may be someone else who is also in school, because people may understand your struggle generally, but unless you have someone that you can talk to that has either, number one, already been through what you're going through as far as trying to work, or trying to go to school, or even trying to pass a class, trying to do well in a class. So I think it's important to have people who really relate to what you're trying to do. And so at that time, I had some colleagues that were also trying to pursue. They weren't pursuing it at University of Florida, but they were also trying to balance and juggle families while trying to go back to school for higher degrees. And so that's what one of the things I try to also encourage. And I know, and this is sort of the one regret that I do have is that I didn't just go straight through and get the doctorate back when I was college age, because I knew I wanted to work in education. And if I just would have just hunkered down, because I was tired of being, you're a college student, so you're broke all the time. I was tired of being broke. I was ready to get a job. I was ready, but if I could rewind time, I actually probably would have went ahead and just stayed in school another couple of years, and gotten that doctorate pre-marriage, pre-children, when it was just me. So one of the things I try to encourage young people to do, is to move straight through. As frustrating as it may be, as tired of school as you may be, just go ahead and get the degree so that you can be done with that part of your preparation.
I really like that you say that. I'm really getting the idea from you to just keep pushing,
Yeah.
and I'm going to write some of this stuff down because it's
Good.
really encouraging.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting this model from you to just keep pushing, and you kept pushing despite all that you were going through.
Yeah.
And I would like you to speak to the students just really quickly. What would be like 3 bullet points that you would give about just pushing through? What are those 3 things that the students would need to do to just push through whatever adversity they're going through, even during our COVID times now?
Yeah, I think number one is to identify what's the long play. What are your long-term goals? I think you have to identify what your long-term goals are so that you can stay focused on it. If I understand sometimes we have to take life one step at a time, one day at a time, but you have to have identified your long-term goals. So the first thing I would say is identify and write down. Identify and write down that long-term goal. That is going to be very, very important. Um, Number two, you have to identify someone that you can go to or something you can go to. It could be, I'm a spiritual person, so sometimes if I'm getting really discouraged about something, I'll go to my Bible and look at my favorite verses. Or there's a friend that I can call to say, hey, I'm feeling really discouraged, or I want to stop doing this. So have someone or something that you can go to, that when you are feeling discouraged, that you are feeling let down, that this is starting to feel too difficult, who can get you back on track, or what can get you back on track, or what can lift that mood for you. And sometimes it's music, because sometimes I'll get in a funky little mood, and just listening to the music that I like will say, okay, I'm better. I can do it. I can do this now. I'm more old school, so I like the old Motown, the old 70s music.
All
So I
right.
can put that on, and it'll help me sort of I feel reframed and refreshed. I said, okay, I got this. Okay. So have something you can go to. And number three, I think you need to identify what's holding you back. And it could be a person. It could be, I've had to, release some people from my space. I think it's important. They were fun and we had a good time doing a whole lot of different things. But when it came to me moving forward in my growth, they were hindering me. And so you have to ask yourself, who or what? Who or what? Because it's not always a who. Sometimes it's a what. What's hindering you from being able to reach that long-term goal? Who is kind of hating on you, or
Mm-hmm.
who is telling me what I want to hear and just agrees with everything I says, without, that doesn't challenge me to be the best person. So identifying um, who or what's holding you back, or maybe you just, you have a fear of trying new things, and that's starting to hold you back. You have a fear of getting rejected, and so
Mm-hmm.
you have to identify what's the thing or things that is holding me back from pursuing my goals, and then you identify a plan on what you're going to do about it.
I was almost doing cartwheels here after, with what you said, especially the third bullet point where you said what or who is holding you back. And I was just that's it. People have to know that it's okay for you to let go of certain things or people in order for you to move forward, because not always you're going to be in the same level, spiritually speaking, or goals.
Yeah,
Maybe you want something and somebody wants something else, and it's okay for you to, um, you know,
yeah,
pursue your own
yeah.
path. And
Part,
sometimes I think that that's mostly what holds us back, because we struggle to adjust, right? We want
Mm.
to make things work, or we're too scared to move out of our comfort zone. That's really
yeah,
precious. That's a really good
yeah.
point.
I say that every person or every situation we're in has sort of what I call like a season of effectiveness. Everybody wasn't meant to permanently be in your space forever. People have seasons of your life, and sometimes they're in your space during a time that's helping you to grow, helping you to learn, helping you to understand in a new or different way. But sometimes that season is up. Their season is up and it's time to move on. And even as I think about different roles I had, different positions I've had, I've got to the point to where I was astute in knowing where my season of effectiveness in that particular role was up. And it was
Mm.
time for me to challenge myself to do the next thing, because this has become rote. I can do this with my eyes closed, so there's not a lot of more innovation or whatever happens. So no, seasons of effectiveness when it comes to people in your spaces. And as you evaluate your own journey, am I still growing and learning in this space, or have I gotten to the point to where I'm sort of at the top of my game in this understanding of this thing. So it's time for me to get out of this comfort zone and move on.
When you say that, that's awesome. It makes me think of a caterpillar, because when they
Yeah,
turn into butterflies, the cocoon can only sustain them for so long.
that's
They
right.
can't stay there. They have to let some things go in order for them to spread their wings and fly.
Yeah, that's a
So,
perfect example.
all these are great nuggets. She's just dropping nuggets of wisdom today. I wrote them down, Amanda. I
Yeah,
wrote them
Yeah,
down.
I did too. Like mental notes. This is
yeah,
just such an enlightening conversation. Um, Now, Dr. Graham, let's move on to our next question. We've been talking about challenges and how education can be transforming, but we would like to hear from you. As a woman of color, what were some of the challenges you experienced and how did you navigate them? Because we're just listening to your journey,
mhm,
and it was not easy. You had to make choices, of
yeah,
course. Sometimes choices just come naturally to you. You just know what you have to do, but sometimes you just have to power through and, you know, just look at the big picture and stick to your goal, like you were saying. But what were some of the challenges overall of being a woman of color,
yeah.
and what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, you definitely have an interesting set of challenges that you have to deal with as a woman of color, because you're considered to be a minority, not only when it comes to gender, but also when it comes to ethnicity. So that definitely presents a new set of challenges. Some of the examples of challenges that um, I've had to deal with and will continue to deal with. Sometimes you have to accept that sometimes some things are going to present themselves in new ways over and over again, but you just have to be prepared to deal with them. But one of the examples that I've had to deal with as a woman of color is, you know, people questioning my competence because I'm Black. So because I'm a woman of color, then of course I can't be as knowledgeable or as strategic in my thinking, as a person who may be different than me. So, questioning my competence And part of what I've had to do over the years in dealing with that, I think that number one, attending, I'm a big HBCU fan. So attending an HBCU helped really provide a strong foundation on how you can interact with the world, and how to overcome obstacles like that. And part of it is when you know who you are, when you know who you are, you know, others can't come disrupt that. So part of it is really having an understanding of my own self-esteem. Self-esteem is the esteem of the self. So if you are letting how others view you affect what you think about you, that's a problem. That's a problem. So part of what I've had to do is to just make sure um, my self-esteem was grounded in knowing who I am. Knowing who I am in Christ, knowing who I am and who my mother and father told me I was, knowing who I am and who my grandma said I was. So those questions I've had to, again, knowing who I am, because as a woman of color, she can't be as smart as. So that's one thing. Another thing, I think all women of color, I don't think this is specific to African American women, but the whole angry Black woman syndrome, you know, uh, and so you can't react as another person, or the feeling that you can't react as a different person would react, because you're going to get that label. So I think that's a label that we constantly have to think about and be careful. It's not fair. I don't think it's fair, you know, um, but we have to constantly be cautious about, being perceived as, oh, here we go, the angry Black woman. And so that's not fair to us. So sometimes I think over the years, I've had to learn how to um, not to adjust, how my feedback and my reactions, not to feed into a stereotype, but not to let it diminish me down either. So part of it is, getting an understanding of how to speak my truth in a way that I think represents me, regardless as to what anybody else says. So I think that's one that I've had to face. And then there's just this straight discrimination. You're going to just face straight discrimination, and then the whole she got the job because she's Black. Forget all the degrees, forget all the years of experience, just she got it because she's Black. So you have to sort of deal with, again, the questions of your competence. So those are some of the things that is not specific to me. I think most women of color, go through these experiences, but being grounded and rooted and knowing who you are, your self-esteem not based on what people tell you are or how people interact with you is so critical and so important.
I didn't know that the reaction thing was actually a thing. You made me think now. I didn't grow up here. I have a different background. I'm not from this country. So I have been learning so many things after I moved to the United States. And I just want to thank you for being so brave and sharing with us how challenges are out there, and how sometimes um, it's even it's unfair. Sometimes people have to look beyond your looks, and they have to really appreciate what you have to bring to the team and what you have to offer. um so I wish that, yeah, it's not, when you think of it, it's simple, but at the same time it's not, because we have so many influences,
Yeah,
and it all draws back to, you know when society started. So for you to um bring, or for you to take down, I don't even know if that's the way to express it, for you to take down those perceptions, for you to refresh, reboot people's
yeah,
point of view,
yeah,
it takes time.
yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
part of it too, and this is one of the things that really kind of hit me with a ton of bricks in the last year is, I believe that we're here to really serve and help other people. You really, what are you doing for someone else, um, to help enrich their life, to help encourage them, to help them be all that they can be? What are you doing to help and serve other people? And I think that when you come to the realization that, especially from my spiritual background, it's about servant leadership and serving others and making sure others can reach their potential. You come to realize that your life is not your own. That your life should be a life of service to help other people. And again, it made me really reflective about this when John Lewis died, and they took him over that took his coffin over that bridge, the Pettus Bridge, for the last time, and thinking about how he gave, his whole life basically fighting for justice for others. And so that's sort of what helps, when you get frustrated or discouraged is, I'm trying to do this to help the people behind me. To what kind of legacy or impression am I going to leave? Not in terms of finances, not in terms of even people who remembering who I am and my name, but what are some of the things I planted inside of other people that help them to be better people and help them to reach their full
I wish we could have like 10 hours of
potential.
podcast because every time you bring something up, I just want to, continue and engage more and more and more. But I'm just gonna go ahead and for our last question before we end this amazing podcast, which I'm so glad that it happened. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure and a delight to talk with you all. Even like I said, the pre-meeting we had, I think we had a lot of fun talking there. So again, anytime I can interact with students, it has just been a joy. And I'm going to put it out in the public space. I told y'all this before. I challenge you to set up a monthly meeting with me individually so
Let's
that
do
we
it.
can so that we can chat about your own journeys and to see how I can help you. So I put it out in the public space now, so now you have to do it.
Now, before we wrap up, we know, Tim and I know that you are really big when it comes to mental health. And we talked about this when we met before the recording this podcast. Would you like to share anything or give any tips or just, for us to wrap up this podcast? I would like to give you the space to say something to the students who identify who their stories have they relate to you in a kind of way, students who are first generation students or even those who are struggling with mental health during this pandemic. What does Dr. Graham's heart have to say?
Yeah, well, this is one of the areas that I'm most concerned about. Is mental health. Right now, especially during the pandemic, especially as I see data and research across the nation that depression is going up among students, that suicide is even going up, and so mental health is so important in that what's in your mind controls your actions. Everything starts with a thought. Everything you do starts with a thought, whether it's something that's positive, whether it ends up being negative, everything starts with a thought. And so part of what a couple of things, part of what I challenge you to do is to sift your thoughts. You have a choice of what stays in your mind and what you let keep going straight through. There's some things, let that thought keep going. If it's not building you up, if it doesn't have you on the road to where you're supposed to be, if it does not have you, if it does not bring joy or fulfillment to your life, or if it causes you to do something that you know is not becoming of your character, let that thought sift through. So that's one of the things I first think you do. Everything starts with the thought. And so when depressive thoughts start to come into your mind, have those spaces that you can go to that's going to re-encourage you.
Mm.
I think that we have so much mental health professionals now that are available, and so sometimes there's some sort of weird negative association with getting help. Sometimes you just need to talk it through with somebody. That's why I'm so glad that at Valencia we have our counselors, and we even have the partnership with Baycare where students can talk with a licensed Baycare therapist, because sometimes you need someone to help you talk through what you're going through. So I really encourage you to, number one, don't let every thought stay in your head. They're all not supposed to be there. Filter it out. Let some of those thoughts keep right on moving out of your brain because they're not supposed to be there. You know, it's okay to get mental health, mental therapy from a counselor. We have counselors at Valencia, and we also have this partnership with Baycare. And then identify what's the thing that lifts you out of a funk. When you start to, because I know when I'm starting to get down into like a depressed, and then, it can be one thought, the enemy's going to come, one thought after another. Listen to music. If I put on that Motown music, or if I put on that 70s music, that makes me happy. It brings me back to my space. So when you start to do, or I have a friend that she makes me laugh so hard every time I talk to her because she's going to have some kind of story or something. So have people like that in your space who can encourage you and make you feel better. But never be ashamed or afraid to get help from a licensed counselor. I think that's so important.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Graham. This was a great conversation. And also, I'd like to reiterate, if you do have any concerns regarding your mental health right now or in this moment, you can reach out to Valencia. We have Baycare here to help you. So reach out if you need it. Do not be afraid. Don't let people try and make you feel bad for asking for help, because there comes a time in your life where you'll need help, and everyone needs help. That's just how life is.
Exactly. And I think part of the problem too is some people, not just students, but just people, they think they're the only one going through it. So they get embarrassed to talk about it. Trust, there are so many people that are going through the same type of thing that you're going to, and being able to talk with someone else about it is really what's going to help you to put you back on the right road.
It really will. Thank you so much, Dr. Graham. I had a great time. Amanda,
I'm glad.
did you?
Yeah, I had a great time. I really hope our listeners had a good time as well.
We hope you had a fantastic time. Hope you had a fun time listening to all of the nuggets Dr. Graham was dropping in on us today. I had a great time. Amanda did as well. We truly hope that you all are blessed by everything that was said during this podcast. And we cannot wait to have you listen to us for our next episode. So go ahead and share online, post it on your Instagram stories, Facebook, whatever platform you're on. Share this with a friend. You will be blessed. I hope you stay safe and everyone stay healthy. We love you.
And that's a wrap.